Actually, I want to say that it's Ruth Shaver's birthday.
No problem. Remember, if you were here when Ned spoke 2 weeks ago, he reminded us that loud noises are not comfortable for everyone, so let's try to respect that tonight. And I'm going to get off the stage, and I'm going to just let Sherry Dawson come on up and let her talk about the wonderful program and what's coming next. So Sherry, there you are. Hi.
Good evening and welcome to KOOBDOOGA 2022, a good book read backwards. Before we begin our program, I want to thank our sponsors, the Ross Bluestone Men's Book Group, Beth Harkenrider, Mary Kopp, Mary Hoyt and Bruce Stevenson Foundation. Special thanks to the Fort Vancouver Regional Library Foundation, the Friends of the White Salmon Valley Community Library, the White Salmon School District Art Teacher, and the White Salmon Youth Center. And thanks so very much to our KOOBDOOGA 22 committee, Mary, Lynn, Janet, Ruth, Portia, MK, Ria, and Jackie. Please vote for your favorite art. And the box is right back here. Probably next Thursday, we are going to be counting the votes, and then we will announce at our final program who the winners are. So anyway, so we welcome Ned Hayes back to White Salmon, and Ned has invited Kassiane and to participate in a discussion about being neurodivergent. She serves as a director of content for a noted nationwide organization focused on autism rights issues. And we have Michael here tonight also to share about being autistic. So please welcome Ned, Kassiane, and Michael with a quiet applause.
Well, as Sherry said, thank you and happy birthday. As you said, I'm facilitating this evening, so you're not going to hear me talk as much as we're going to have our two honored guests talk. Just as a little bit of background, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Kassiane. Kassiane has been a contributor to the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. She was a lead editor on the Thinking Person's Guide to Autism. She also, you might not know this, invented the term neurodivergent over a decade ago?
20 years ago.
Okay, so over a decade ago, 2 decades ago. Right, and so when we think of the autistic experience, that has a variety of types of experiences within it. It's not one experience. And so I really give her a lot of credit for inventing that term neurodivergent, because it allows people to talk about different experiences without trying to put them in a box, which my book also attempted to do, tried to tell one experience without putting that person in a box. And so Kassiane is an Asian American autistic rights advocate, and is also a gymnastics instructor, archer, and student of life. So I'd love us to hear some from Kassiane, and then we'll hear some from Michael as well. So welcome, Kassiane.
Hi. Yeah, I always introduce myself as a vintage 1982 biracial autistic American because I think I'm funny, especially when I'm anxious, which is always. I was born in Central Illinois at a time when, oh, hi, are you from Central Illinois too? I'm sorry. And it was at a time when girls weren't autistic and people who could talk weren't autistic. But I have a built-in control group because I'm a triplet. So I got diagnosed when I was 3. And then I learned how to talk when I was 5 and got undiagnosed. And so then I was just weird the entire rest of my life until I was 16 and was about to babysit for an autistic kid and did what every normal 16-year-old girl does and Googled autism. Only this was before Google. I asked Jeeves about autism. So yeah, I asked James about autism, and then I'm sitting there in the school library going, oh no, this is a thing. That's not weird, is it? Everybody does this, right? What do you mean? And so that was a whole thing that happened. And then I found autistics.org. And then I found my old medical records. So we had the whole crisis of who am I? But growing up, right, I was a weird kid. I was also a kid who did extremely well in my gymnastics lessons while doing very badly in school, except for the classes I loved with my whole autism. Did real well in those. Didn't have a lot of friends, but the friends I had, I was really good at. Starting when I was about 16. Little kid, no friends, none. Didn't really care as long as they left me alone, right? Nobody left me alone. I got bullied a lot. But you know, you hear a lot about autistic kids being clumsy. I wasn't. I was a high-level gymnast. I was a very good archer. I went to Mongolian Heritage Camp and won an award for being real good at jumping on a moving horse and shooting arrows. So I'm like, you know, autism's kind of like you have the bell curve and we tend to be at either ends. Like we live at these ends on a lot of things, sensory processing, abilities, interests, and I tend to be on the end that nobody talks about a lot of the time, and that's okay. And then, you know, I grew up, I found out, oh, no, this is a thing my mom hid from me. That's not cool. We'll talk about that later or never. That's fine. We can also never talk about that. And I grew up into my community and started deciding, you know, I can make a difference for my community. Because when we decide to do something, we really decide to do something. We really, really decide to do something. So then, you know, you have the word neurodivergent and you have Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, which is a lot of people, and you have Foundations for Divergent Minds, and you have Autism Women's and Non-Binary Network, and I've been in all those communities. And then you have the things you don't hear about, like how we help very young adults who are in bad situations get out of them. You know, how we put each other back together. And that's the very brief overview, you know, really bad childhood that we're not going to talk about, please. At least not in great detail. Nobody wants that. I'll answer questions, but not in great detail. Biracial kid, diagnosed, undiagnosed because 80s. Didn't talk till I was 5. Somebody's going to ask, so I'm just going to tell you that now. And our community is really important to me, but it was rough for a while in there, and that is my approximate context. Oh, and I do Aikido now. That's super cool. And it's really, everybody thinks it'll be bad. For autistic people, it's really awesome because they tell me exactly how much to turn, and that's great. It's math. So that was the very brief overview.
Now, just as a reminder, part of the reason that we're doing clapping this way and that we're also doing things like keeping the lights a little low and not having a screeching microphone is that auditory processing can be more sensitive for some people. Some people may be out there, and I know some people up here. So we're trying to be sensitive so everyone's needs are met. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you all, is have Michael speak a bit, and then maybe we can do a little Q&A and have some back and forth about the autistic experience. And I know some of you have questions, and I have some questions too, so we'll have that conversation. But first, I'd like to introduce Michael. Michael's actually a member of this community. Michael was introduced to me when I read here, and I was really impressed with his ability to speak about his experience and his desire to share his experience with other people. And so if you wanted to tell us a little bit about your life, we'd love to hear it.
Hi, my name is Michael. I am a student that is right now homeschooled, as I have been bullied most of my time in middle school. I was a person who was diagnosed with autism during 6th grade at OHSU down in Portland. With that, I have done a few things that have kept me where I am and how I'm happy. As a person with autism, I don't like a lot of things, and I like a lot of things. One of my things is engineering. as it keeps me calm and happy.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So I guess the first question I wanted to ask, and then I'll kind of open up the floor, but the first question I'll ask, and maybe this is more for Kassiane, is a question of why are autistic people advocating for themselves? Why is that important?
Well, I feel like that's I always feel like that's kind of a trick question. I mean, why does anybody advocate for themselves? I don't know, Ned, why do men advocate for themselves? I mean, you see, we're people and we have needs, and people should listen to people about their needs. That's one of those things that I feel like I'm insulting everybody in the room saying it, but then I clearly need to say it because I've been doing this a really long time and still need to say it. We're not getting our needs met yet. And I say yet because I'm an optimist. We're going to someday. And so we're telling you what we need with the ever optimistic hope that you want to do it. You just need to know what it is.
Thank you so much. Are there other questions for Michael or for Kassiane? I can answer questions too, but this is really a format for them to answer questions. Yes, sir.
This isn't a question, if you bear with me. A really short anecdote. I teach adaptive skiing at Conwood, and quite a few of our students are cognitively impaired. I found out that a student had to stop coming to the mountain because they installed Dyson hand dryers in the restroom.
Oh, yeah.
And I use that to enforce your point, but also how insensitive we are to others to create an environment.
I have something that might help. My microbiology class did a study of those. Those things are so nasty. Nobody should have those. They're just gross. Like, not only are they loud, they are disgusting.
Do you want to tell us more about what you mean? They're disgusting.
The poop germs live in there, and then they blow them all over your hands.
Okay.
Don't dry your hands in there, and you just get the poop germs on them.
And just to clarify for people, why do some people find loud blowing sounds, or not why, but what's that experience like for someone who is sensitive to that?
It's just extremely loud in my book to whatever I hear. If I
Yeah.
heard a sound for either a long period of time with the exact same noise, it starts to affect me and I want to cover my ears because I don't want to continue hearing it. Or like something screeching, like a pencil on a piece of paper is not comfortable to me.
It hurts.
Right. Thank you. Yes, in the back.
I'd like to ask a question to the group, and this is partly my answer to it. When you look at, and this was about a blower dry hand thing, is that what we're talking about? Because I couldn't quite hear.
Yeah, a Dyson dryer in the bathroom.
Bathroom
Yeah.
and not having any paper towels and needing to use the blower. Raise your hand if you'd rather wipe your hands on your hands or your shirt and use the dryer. Raise your hand if you've done that regularly. Yeah, and so it's a spectrum of sounds that offend and disturb me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always, like, if I don't have choice, I always want to watch them.
This actually touches on something that I've heard some people who are autistic talk about, that the spectrum we're talking about, when autism was called a spectrum, it's not often now, but I think the spectrum is really the spectrum of human experience, right? Because humans have lots of different experiences, and this is, all of us in this room are part of the human experience, right? So, yeah. In the back, I think there was a question. Someone? No? Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you could share what you talked about. We don't get our needs met, and if you could share or try and give us an understanding of like what your needs are in relation to your sensory experience, either, and I know it can vary, but but like in relation to school or home or work environment, like what kinds of things, like, when you said you'd like us to understand or know what we can do, and like, in relation to auditory or tactile or visual, or just like, your sensory, your physical, like sounds like the heavy work or the work of gymnastics, and how that affects your sensory system and what it gives you.
So sensory is in some ways the easiest to point out, oh my goodness, people aren't listening, in some ways the hardest. I actually have a really good example of a specific not listening and why are you making this so difficult, though it's mostly related to my interlocking disability of epilepsy. My biology class had the downlights that are fluorescent. I had an accommodation that should be super easy of no flashing lights in class. Super easy, right? This is a no-brainer. There should not be flashing lights in class anyway. One of the downlights was dying, so it was strobing. Had to go to disability services, so had to ask the teacher if he would turn off that bank of lights. It doesn't turn off. My dude, yes, it does. This is in university, by the way. Go all the way to disability services. You have to tell them to turn off the light. Well, we can get you sunglasses. Okay. Then they went to, then they had to talk to maintenance. I ended up having to go to the Queer Resource Center to even get sunglasses. And then, which are not we're not prescription. I do have prescription lenses. We ended up going back and forth all semester about these lights. He would not flip off the light switch. I have in writing that this man with a doctorate is saying, and the disability resource coordinator of Portland State University is saying this is reasonable, that this man with a doctorate who grew up in the United States of America cannot work a light switch. It is too hard for him. It is not something he knows how to do. I have it in writing. That is an example of they are not listening to us, and in fact, they are going out of their way to not listen to us and stonewall. And that is everything, is that uphill thing. And I published this because it's absurd, and I tell everybody because it's absurd. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we deal with all the time.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too, but not as sorry as Jen Duggar is that I just told another room full of people that she thinks a man can't work a light switch.
I saw the hand up for a question, but I just wanted to go to Michael for a bit. Did you want to speak at all about your experience of needs not being met?
A lot of the times whenever I was having to be in classes, I had asked the teacher if I could be in the back of the room, always away from people, due to the fact that I can't get along with my own class and generation at all. They don't want to really talk to me. I've just always never gotten along because of it. So whenever I was in a class, I always asked that. So they'd either move me to the back of the room or put me in a space away from everyone. So when they don't do that, it causes an entire problem of either those people don't like me or they don't like me. So I had to deal with the entire problem of, oh, you don't need to be here. Why are you in this class in the first place? Mm-hmm. Get out of here, go, leave. So I just sooner or later have to head to the office because there's nothing else I can do.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Just to add to that, one thing that I've seen in society, and when I was researching the Eagle Tree, I saw this especially, that there are things that are not actually accurate about autistic people and about their experience in the world that are out there. And Kassiane, in the car as we were coming here, you talked a little bit about a group that you've been involved with and people who were able to work with autistic kids. Did you want to share some more about that?
Yeah, that was fun. Foundations for Divergent Minds set up a recreation program where that's the nonprofit I'm on the board of. We have a recreation program for children of mixed neurologies, so autistic children, neurotypical children, children who are neither autistic nor neurotypical, because there's more than two kinds of brains. And the purpose of it is to make friends and to together grow your abilities to self-regulate and co-regulate, which is regulating like your, you and your friends sit together and work your thing out, And, you need adult facilitators to have a kids' friendship program because children need supervision. The most interesting piece of data that came out of this to me, besides that kids are awesome, like work together really well, was that the facilitators who did the best were the facilitators who had never worked with autistic children. The ones who had no autism training did the best at working with the kids. No preconceived notions to unlearn.
So what are some of those preconceived notions that people have in the world that we should maybe debunk a few of?
But Michael has some.
I don't have any right now.
Oh, okay. Well, did you know that we're not funny? I had to, I'm sorry. It was right there. We have terrible timing too.
I actually might have one.
Hmm.
I don't have any sarcasm at all.
Also, there is a myth that autistic people can't learn things.
Mhm.
Gosh, Kassiane, have you ever gone to school?
No, and I definitely didn't have to teach a man how to turn off a light.
Right.
And that we don't care about people, that's a myth. And that letting us do things we like is dangerous and should only be meted out as a reward in teeny tiny qualities, that's a thing. That's the thing that we had to unteach people.
So there are two hands up, so I'm going to go with you first because you were first hand up, and then I'll come back to you now.
So you were amazing when you had the last reading and you helped with the technical computer, and you were incredible. I just want to say, well, we on this divergent planet were a little flustered. You were as cool as could be, and you were successful in getting that started. So it was amazing to watch. So tip of the hat. I advocated for my child with ADHD, and I believe, I don't know if you attended this school district where you.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I went to that because my son was poorly treated, and poorly treated systemically, and poorly treated with a label and the bias to that label, and then the treatment that came out that was appalling and consistently every day and brutal. And the bullying, it is so much of a passive and an aggressive type of bullying. It is so insidious, and it is consistent from the moment you walk into a school and to the moment you exit it. And so even as, and I have ADHD, my son had ADHD, and I have ADHD, and therefore I had a stuck thinking pattern. And my stuck thinking pattern was, I'm gonna get a policy and I'm gonna change this. And that happened, and it took 5 years. And I stood in front of my school board every month for 5 years and lobbied for the better treatment for all students across the board. I think that what I learned in that process is how brutal institutions and people in power can be, and dismissive and cruel. And so when we took the policy win, we then got a state law, and that was a quicker clip than moving the policy from the institution that was needing a huge education and training. And so I want to speak to the bullying, and I want to speak to the society that sits back and watches it and allows it, and I want to speak to what the advocacy needs to look like so that a light being turned off doesn't take half a year and that amount of time, and what individuals in a community need to become so that people are treated with dignity and respect and an equity of education.
Was there a question in there, or just?
Yeah, what is the advocacy?
Oh, okay, sorry, I don't always hear the question mark.
That's okay, I'm long-winded.
I have rubella, so I process. So I talk a lot about people need to do ally work. Throwing down for a long time is hard. you know, the people who have the, I don't know if you're all familiar with spoons, because spoon theory is its whole other thing that I don't actually explain well, but people who have the energy and the time and who society sees as real people, you know, people who are able-bodied, well, abled, I don't like able-bodied for a lot of reasons, including I'm able-bodied, but I'm not abled. People who are abled and who are white and who are otherwise privileged, you know, on whatever axis you're advocating, people who are perceived as more listen-toable need to lay the groundwork and do as much of the work as they can and amplify the voices of the people who they're trying to advocate for. But then, you know, the boring, okay, dude, you really, really can't use that slur ever, ever, ever. You can shut that down every single time, right? Every single time. You don't need to amplify anybody's voice to do that. Everybody needs to just know that. Yeah. Nope, we don't do that here. Nope, we don't do that here. That gets very boring and very tiresome. And that is part of I'm sure that was part of your thing. Like, no, you can't talk to people that way. That's ally work. So then just everybody needs to do the ally work, and then the things that are no longer just things that are bottom of the barrel decency, which is where ally work ends. You need to amplify the voice of the people who you're actually trying to advocate for. Like Diary of a Mom, Jess Wilson, does a really good job of doing that now. She used to do a real bad job of doing it, and she will own that. So I'm not like throwing shade or anything. She really did. She does a great job now. She's a good example of that if you have yield internet. And it's exhausting. That's another thing. Take care of people who you see doing the work if you yourself are not somebody who can throw down repeatedly, because it's hard. Bake cookies. I'm not even kidding, bake cookies. Check in on your strong friend. Be a community. And I'm not sure if you have opinions on that whole thing.
Michael, did you want to add anything?
No, not right now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kassiane. I did want to ask a clarifying question, and I did see your hand up, so I'll come back to that. But allyship can help, but there is a point at which the people who are being affected need to be involved. And so there are some organizations out there that say that they speak for autism, but don't have any autistic board members or don't have any senior staff who are any kind of autistic or neurodivergent. This causes concern because, well, do you want to speak further?
Yeah, well, and also, so the biggest one is Autism Speaks. And so they answered, so that you may recall taxation without representation was the whole thing, one of the whole things with founding of this country. And then if you listen to that, well, okay, but if they put one person from here on parliament, that wouldn't actually have changed the problem. It would still be a problem. So I say that because Autism Speaks has technically put, I believe, like Val Paradis or Stephen Shore on their board. And having Stephen Shore on your board, he's a sweetheart. He will not rock any boat. He will not. I love him dearly. I've known him since I was 16. He will not rock any boat. So, and they do not have any autistic people in meaningful decision-making positions, and that does not change the rhetoric they've spewed since their inception. So, like, it's not just they're not having autistic people in meaningful positions. It's, oh my gosh, do you see what you're saying about actual people? Do you understand there's actual people you are talking about here? So the composition of the board is a problem. I broke my yes/no bracelet and I'm very sad about it. There's also just, there's no allyship happening here because look at the words that are coming out of your mouth like you think those are okay to say where people can hear you. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think the phrase is no policies about us without us.
Nothing about us without us.
Yes. So the reason that that is out there is that there has been historically always groups that have wanted to make policy and even classroom learning and everything else about autistic people without autistic people being involved.
And that's from the broader disability rights movement, not just autistic people, and not even just, that actually comes out of the self-advocacy movement, which is the broader cognitive disability rights movement. Hi, I'm very, I studied this with my whole autism. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't say I have special interests, I say I love things with my whole autism because it's more fun.
There was a question over here.
Excuse me. I think I have three questions actually, and I was a little late, I'm sorry, I might have missed something. My background is that I was a special ed teacher for 38 years. And a lot of my sound, my favorite disability to work with people with autism. I work with everybody anyway. So I have like three questions. One is, I see that, or I hear that you and everybody here that is speaking not in person first language. And anybody that knows me, they know that I just totally, like, I hear every single time, it bothers me. And I don't know if it bothers you at all. And to explain what person first language to people that may not.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure you know, but maybe there's some people that don't know is to always, I don't say, blonde hair Susan, I have a friend who has blonde hair. I don't think of her, when I think of her, I don't think of her blonde hair. I think of, her personality, or I don't say, my blind friend. No, it's my friend who happens to be blind. And so that's one question. You want me to do one question at a time?
I actually have a very studied answer for this one.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd like to hear it.
Well, okay, do you want the nice answer or the mean answer?
Well, it's a personal answer, so I don't think it's nice or mean.
So,
personal.
I'm not a person who happens to be living with the experience of biraciality. I'm biracial, correct? I am not living with womanness. I'm not a person who happens to be American. I'm an American biracial woman, right? Why do you need to remind yourself that I'm a person when you're talking about autism? The more words you put between person and autism, the more it's clear that you, somewhere in your heart, think that those are mutually exclusive. That's why the autistic community, and we respect that we know and respect that people with intellectual disabilities choose intellectual disability, and that's their choice. And I absolutely respect that and will honor that. Like, those are their words. That's fine. Autistic people very deliberately choose autistic people.
I know the deaf community also chooses that. The deaf community is a capital D for deaf.
Yes.
And people that want to be called deaf, a deaf person.
So
I think it's a personal decision. There's a lot of people that want to hear person first language, and it feels stronger both ways. It feels stronger your way, I feel stronger my way. Obviously, we're not living in each other's shoes, but so I think it is a personal decision.
I will call you.
To point out.
It's a great question.
It is.
Did you have another?
I would love to hear your other questions, and I truly am not being mean. I just really want you to think. Thank you. I really want you to think about that is the way that we hear it because of the dehumanizing rhetoric that surrounds particularly autistic people, and the somebody stole our baby rhetoric. So
That's good. I appreciate you being honest and sharing it. Thank you.
And we'd love to hear your other questions.
I don't know if you've watched the program Atypical. Have you watched the program Atypical? I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. And then my third question was, maybe I missed part of this, but I know we've talked a lot about, the negative part of upbringing in school. I'd like to hear something that you felt was very helpful growing up, whether it was in school or whether it was a friend or somebody that advocated so that we can,
Mhm.
you know, clean up some of this.
Michael, do you want to take this one first?
I can take the third one for that question, because the people who had helped me is my own mother, which is here today. And
I'm sorry, is this your mother?
yes, this is my and two of my teachers who have helped me through my time, as a lot of my teachers had told me I would never learn in my life. With all of that, I had met two teachers in my time, my 5th grade teacher and my 7th grade science teacher. Both of them tried to help set up programs with both schools to keep me at a place where I'd be okay and not have to freak out every time something bad happened in class, because it was constantly and I could never do anything about it.
Mhm.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
And
And why do you think that, was it just the kind of person that they were?
These teachers were people who have dealt with some people with autism in the past, mainly myself as included in that group. And a few of them had not, but they had seen that I'm not like the rest of the students. I'm outcasted from everyone. I'm by myself. No one's there to help me even.
So they could accept you for who you are and go from there, would you say?
Yeah.
Great. Good to hear that, thank you.
And I had my gymnastics coach, well, coaches, but Nancy was awesome. I trained at a Y, and Ys aren't really the fancy gym. And she didn't care if you were weird. She cared that you came and did the work. And she started driving me to meets as soon as she could so that I didn't have to deal with my mom and stepdad's nonsense on the way to meets. And that sounds like a little thing, but it's actually a really big thing, because meets are where you qualify to the next level, and at the next level you get to go to the gym more. This sounds like a small thing, but when you're a kid who regulates by crashing into things, having to practice more is actually a really big deal. So, and that was my first job too, was coaching at the Y that I trained at. So that was just like this whole overarching thing in my childhood, was at least I had the gym and the adults there.
One other thing that I think you mentioned recently, Kassiane, was there are libraries. Do you want to speak a little bit more about those resources?
The lending libraries, yes. There's a few all over the country, and there's one in Australia that have collections of resources that were put together by activists and librarians. There's some like flyers and pamphlets and booklets, and then also published books and like DVDs and stuff. And they're very curated collections, and they have little community libraries, just like neurodiversity lending libraries. There's the Ed Wiley Neurodiversity Lending Library up in Bellingham. And I think there's one in California, and there's one in Virginia, and there's one in Boston, I think, and there's a few more, but I don't know where they all are. And those are extremely cool community resources. And they all have websites or Facebook pages, even if they don't have none of them is here that I know of, but those are very cool things that exist. And
I'm a little confused.
So these are libraries that lend resources about the autistic experience.
So they're not lending resources to make the experience in the library?
No.
Because we have sensory kits here.
That's super cool.
For story time, but you're talking about material that is loaned out to people for them to educate themselves about the autistic experience or autism.
Yes. And you also asked about atypical?
Someone else asked
Yes,
about atypical.
our
I hear the answer to that question.
Yes.
Bless their hearts.
So I've never seen this show. Who has seen this show?
I've actually
not.
seen some of it.
Okay, so a few people have, not a lot of people.
Bless their hearts. A friend of mine watched the whole thing to do a review of it, and I appreciate her for it. It is a story that I have seen, and I'm sad about that. I did not enjoy it. because I have seen the autistic boy who was not taught a single standard ever a few too many times, and his mother was demanding that I date him. So I could only watch a few episodes because I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I am done with the entitled autistic man-child. I did not enjoy it.
Well, and you just put your finger on the point that autistic people are people who have many different expressions in the world. Some people are great people, some people are not so great people, just like other human beings, right?
Yeah.
So there can be people who are entitled, and there can be people who are super helpful to everyone.
It was
So-
not a story I wanted, that I was there for at that time in my life.
Yes, Ruth.
Michael.
Oh, Michael, did you want to say
Fine.
something?
Wait.
Oh, okay, Ruth, and then,
Well, my question really is for both of them, but in relation to atypical or other times that we have seen autistic people in theater, film, do you feel like those people represent you or a group of, no, that's really, they're out there on on TV as if that's what we're supposed to expect when we meet an autistic person.
Do you feel represented?
Not always. There's a lot of things that can be off and a lot of things that are not. It's just if they've done their research or not into it, in my mind.
So do you think that show represents who you are?
No,
What about Love on the Spectrum?
I have not even watched that.
question over here.
Kind of, with the question about who's seeing atypical was asked over here, I thought you had the cutest smile on your face, and I just like to ask an open question, not anything specific, but what do you think about that TV show? Because you watched it a little bit and smiled, I just wondered.
It's nice to see sometimes if something is brought out about some things with autism, if it is something that has happened with specific people in the past, or if it was a specific historical figure of the past too.
Right. Yes.
See, I have no experience, and I just want to say, this is too personal, like, it's not me to say, it's too personal, I don't want to answer, but Michael, you caught my interest when you said that your happy place, I think you said, is the engineering. And I was curious if you care to share, like, do you visualize yourself as you work through engineering, being part of like a regular, like corporate, like I spent a lifetime in a corporate environment, which I could not tolerate. And I'm just gonna make a comment that one of the things that always drove me crazy was part of the training I had from the time I was just like 20 was one of the key things you must be able to do is always make and maintain eye contact. And if a person can't maintain eye contact with you, then they're either hiding something or they're up to something. So when I read the book that the Eagle trained me, it speaks a bit to this. I just didn't know if you wanted to share anything about your love of engineering and how you visualize your life going forward.
I actually do engineering, as if anybody has been out in that room mainly and you look on the corkscrew wall there, one of the things is the Gorge Makerspace item. That was set up by my group here, and that is from my robotics team. I have done robotics at Makerspace for 4 years myself. It is the one thing that I'm always happy to go do. It's the main thing that's led to what I do today and how I'm happy always talking to people. Then I don't like large corporate buildings. I'm fine with smaller areas where I'm able to work with a small group of people at a time and be able to talk with them, because it makes it easier to work on a project.
Just a follow-up question on this. There are some people, maybe me too, who get it wrong about areas of special interest for autistic people. Would either of you care to talk about what that is and how that's experienced?
I don't know. Top of my head.
Okay, so, yeah.
I can certainly try. But, okay, so it's one of those things where it's like, how do you explain red to somebody who can't see red? It's in that category of things, right? It's like, I don't know how to explain the intensity of joy and interest and focus. Like, I say I love things with my whole autism, right?
Mhm.
Like, I always care about the thing, even when I care about something even when I care about everything else 0%. And I have real bad executive function, so sometimes I care about almost everything 0%. I care about this thing, I want to engage in this thing. It brings me the kind of joy that, 4-year-olds have running and opening presents on your gift-giving holiday of choice. But all the time, all I have to do to get that is, get my Aikido teacher to throw me across the mat, which is way cheaper than getting a bunch of presents and putting them under a tree or whatever. Because I can do that 3 times a week. It's like that all the time, right? Or, for a while it was guinea pigs, but that was when I was a kid. And then it was neuroscience, and then it was, engaging in it. It's kind of like, it's not just dopamine, I don't think. It might be just dopamine, but I don't think it is. Like, you get the focus and it's joy, and I don't know how to explain it really. It's like you get the flow state that some people talk about. I think I've heard people talk about flow state too. That is a thing that people are familiar with. You get your flow state, but it's also real happy, and it's real interested, but it's not like giddy happy necessarily. Yeah, I'm trying and I'm failing real hard, but I'm giving it a shot.
Well, I thought that was a great description, thank you. The reason I mention this is that those who have read The Eagle 3 will know that the character in this book, his area of special interest is trees. And then in his area of special interest changes somewhat in a later story that's in the hardcover, but not in the paperback. But the reason I mention this is that, as Kassiane just pointed out, areas of special interest or focus can shift over time, and people aren't just all about trains. Maybe later on they're about bicycles, or they're about stars. Just like the human interest across the board changes over time. For a while I was really into Shakespeare, and then I was really into Milton. Things change. So much areas of special interest change too, and it's not I believe, this is just my belief, it's not a disability, it's an ability. So I hope that's helpful. Do you want to say anything more about this?
No, not on that, but I did have something to say about your third question earlier.
Yeah.
One of those teachers, though, to me, is a very special teacher to this day. That teacher, right before I was here, I had seen the day beforehand. His name is Derek Grease, and I had visited him with my friend Lane. We were outside the school, we were just talking, and the moment this teacher saw me is the moment he just yells my name in excitement to see me again.
Oh.
Can I ask you a question? So I see that you've been thinking about something I said, and I've been thinking about something you said. So, I don't know if I missed, but how old are you, or what grade are you?
I am only 16, almost 17.
And you're going to school here?
I am homeschooled.
You're homeschooled, okay. And as a teacher, and I'm hoping that most, people hear that, is, we're supposed to learn across the board culturally, like addressing what the woman over there said is like, I'm not looking at you directly right now, just because it may or may not bother you, but as a whole, I know it may bother you. And, somebody that's, I've worked with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and not to expect certain things, because of the background, or not like, why did you get your homework done? Well, you know what? I went to that boy's house yesterday, and he's lucky he even got some sleep last night. Those are the kinds of things that, because of the poverty, and just, I don't know, I'm going on about that, but personally, I think engineering is a fantastic field for you. I have so many examples of people that I believe have autism that are in physics. I heard Temple Grandin speak at Fermilab, which is this accelerator laboratory in Illinois, and she was even saying, I know so many people that I believe have autism, a lot of the physicists, just the other day, kind of a long story, but I was bringing this young man some brownies somewhere. That's a little story, but anyway, this man that greeted me, he was an engineer because I know what building he worked in, but he greeted me and he was like, totally, I just knew he had autism, but it was great. I mean, he was just so direct. He was like, well, you don't belong in that building. And then he started walking, but he didn't tell me I should follow him, but I thought I should follow him, so I followed him. And then then he just the way he dropped me off, or, to me, sometimes it's just so real, so I appreciate the realness, it's just real, I would say, if I was asked your mother, is your son real? And you would say, yes, you're real, so I applaud you for that, so.
I actually have watched some things on Temple Grandin before. In my past, I've actually looked at some of the things with my mother, ironically, while I was just at the Hood River Library, and I found something on it.
She's pretty amazing. I mean, I've heard her speak twice, and once I heard her speak in a conference, and we have all these women lined up to go to the bathroom at break time. Temple Grandin, she had to go to the bathroom. She just right up there, and she's, I gotta go. She just right in there and didn't excuse herself, nothing, it's just, that's what had to happen. Or she called out the person in the front row that was on their phone.
She has always done that.
Yeah.
She's always done that. She also joined us for singing around the piano at one of the first conferences I went to. She cannot carry a tune in a bucket, bless her heart. That's okay. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and it was great. It was genuinely fun. Just singing the weird versions of some of the songs. It was fantastic.
I was just gonna ask Michael, I know, but I think others would like to know what some of his other hobbies are, or things that he really enjoys doing.
Okay, I also can cook as one of my things. I actually make a really good General Tso's chicken on some days. Whenever I'm in the mood to make it, I just cook whenever, and I can open a book to any page and cook whatever I see. I also I am right now as a student learning Japanese, as it's something of my interest. And I also am right now, as we are speaking, building a metal shop in a shed I built.
Thanks for sharing, Michael. Can I ask a question? Unless there's, one question I know non-autistic people sometimes ask, so I'll just ask it. Could someone talk a little bit about what stimming is, or some of the flapping that some people who are autistic do? What's going on there for those people? So.
I'm sort of confused by that question.
Okay.
Oh, like this whole business?
Yeah.
The flapping and the rocking?
Oh.
Rocking, flapping, sometimes working something over and over.
Playing with the beaded bracelet I broke.
Yeah, that's why you see me moving my hands this entire time.
It broke. Well, so you're all doing it too. I'm just gonna put that out there. Actually, no, Temple never called people out for stimming. That was Steven. I've been around so long, I'm sorry. So that's actually a word we stole from behaviorists for self-stimulatory behaviors, but they can't have it back. It's just, little sensory things to find the edges of your body, and to get more input in certain ways, or maybe to dispel input that you don't like right now. You're sitting in a chair and you need to fidget.
So I'll ask a really dumb follow-up question that 30 years ago, people thought this, so I'll just ask.
All right.
Here's the dumb question. Gosh, is that harmful? Should we stop people from flapping and stimming?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's really the only thing that if I am extremely wanting to either I'm going to say something or I'm just wanting to move my hands because I don't like sitting still at all no matter what, I will just move my hands.
Mhm.
That or my hands will start to shake rapidly.
Yeah,
It hurts 0 people.
right. Perfectly reasonable expression.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurts 0 people. Just if you don't like it, look the other direction. It's not a big deal.
Great. Other questions? Thank you for explaining that so well, Kassiane. Yes, in the second row.
So Kassiane, you said you're one of a pair of, or a group of triplets.
Mm-hmm.
How was your relationship with your siblings who were part of your triplet group?
Growing up, we were actually pretty close. We joked that I got both of their ability to read because I learned to read really young, and one of my brothers is like super average and the other one is severely dyslexic. So like we joked that I got the whole ability to read, but then my dyslexic brother got all of the social confidence for all of us. So like if you put the 3 of us together on several axes, we make one functional person. It was kind of a problem when we were kids. But we were actually really close growing up because I mean, we shared a womb. We kind of had to be. We didn't have to be. But growing up, we were really close until we got into like the jealousy years. There wasn't as much resentment as you hear from a lot of kids because our needs didn't really collide a whole lot. We kind of took turns holding the meltdown for different reasons, or like, well, okay. Like I would beat my brother's friends at basketball because they didn't believe his weird sister could beat them at basketball. And then he would, do something weird with the other kid. Like we had these weird little triplet games that were kind of went around the autism things and we think some of that is because I was a girl and they're both boys. So some of the social like weird aggression things that might have been the case if we were all girls or all boys were different. And then in middle school, high school, we grew apart a bit for a lot of reasons that are in no way related to our neurologies and entirely related to our family being, our parents not being good at being, fostering relationships amongst their children. But we were really close when we were kids. I miss them a lot, actually. We were super cute too. Really cute.
Are either of your brothers autistic?
Neither of them's autistic, no. One of them has significant social anxiety, but is otherwise fairly, once he's fine, he's fine. And then the other one's significantly dyslexic and has ADHD, but all the social confidence in the entire world.
I do have another question. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the difference. You're using the words neurodivergent and autism. Are they synonymous or do they have to, could you define them for me?
Absolutely. Autism is one specific cluster of neurologies. There's a lot of presentations that are called autism, but autism is, this neurological cluster, right? You've got whatever we're deciding is autism right now. We're autistic. Neurodivergent is this big old umbrella that everybody tries to make much more complicated than it is. If our friend here has ADHD, you're neurodivergent.
And I'm a superpower.
Yes, you have a superpower. So neurodivergent is your brain works differently than society expects. It is the opposite of neurotypical. If you have epilepsy, you're neurodivergent. If you have ADD, if you have PTSD, multiple sclerosis, that's a really hard thing for me to say out loud, but I type it all the time. Lots of mental illnesses. I'm not going to tell everybody with mental illness that they're neurodivergent because I don't tell people how their brains are, but mental illnesses are neurodivergences. Brain injuries are neurodivergences. That's something that happened to your brain. Parkinson's disease, things that affect how your brain or nervous system works, that's neurodivergence. It's a big old tent, and autism's in that tent, but it is not the whole tent. That would be weird. We don't need two words for the same thing.
What about the word Asperger's?
We don't have that word anymore, and that makes me
That's what I've been
happy.
told. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It went away with the DSM-5.
I don't know what DMS.
The DSM-5 is, the DSM-4 and the DSM-5, those are like the diagnostic and statistical manuals, the books they diagnose things out of. And you can't tell the difference at like my age between somebody who is diagnosed at 5 with autism and Asperger's anyway, so they kind of threw it out. And now there's ASD 1, 2, and 3 or something like that.
So just for those of you who don't know, Asperger's used to be a specific diagnosis that was, some people thought that it was less than quote unquote full-blown autism. These ideas, as she just said, are out the window.
Thank goodness.
These are not accurate ideas anymore, but Asperger's was a definition of how they describe some people at one point in time. And now that's still used by some people, but it's not actually, as Kassiane pointed out, endorsed in the medical literature, and it's not a diagnosis that's valid any longer. Fair enough?
Yeah, it did do one good thing, and that was it did remind people that there are autistic people who can talk and stuff, because like the whole, it's been a whole ride to get to where we are now and making sure that people get support that they need, but we do not need that word anymore, and it was doing a lot of harm to some people, I think, because people were being denied services because they had the wrong diagnosis. So now that diagnosis is not on anybody, is not official.
So speaking of diagnosis, just to follow up on that, some people who are neurodivergent are nonverbal or even immobile. Could you speak a little bit, either Michael or Kassiane, about those people's human rights and their ability to learn and be part of society?
In my opinion, everybody has rights no matter what happens to them or who they are. They're all people, no matter who or what. Mm-hmm. Even if you've been an outcast all your life yourself, you can't turn it against them.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I ask this is that there historically has been a syndrome in society, let's call it a symptom of dysfunction, where people who are nonverbal or people who have disabilities that make it hard for them to engage socially are considered less than. And as Michael just very articulately said, that's not the case, and we should act as if it's not the case. So thank you.
I may have missed it, but it seems as if autism is on the rise in the United States. Does anyone have any idea why that's happening?
Well, the diagnosis of autism is on the rise. Autism itself, probably not. I could get really nerdy here and start talking about diagnostic substitution, or I could not. Do we want me to? All right, so diagnostic substitution. I need a whiteboard, gosh dang it. So, okay, at one point, you have this number of people. Up to here, at the top of it, you have your people who are diagnosed with autism. And if this is your stack of people diagnosed with everything, right? Your whole stack of people getting services. These 5 people at the top were diagnosed with autism. All these people underneath were diagnosed with intellectual disability. Move that stack over, they all got reevaluated. Now, this whole number of people up here, bigger stack, diagnosed with autism. Everybody below still diagnosed with intellectual disability. These are the exact same people. They all have diagnoses, just some of them have a different diagnosis, because with the new criteria, they now qualify for an autism diagnosis instead of just having an intellectual disability diagnosis. So the diagnosis got changed, but it's not like they have a different thing. It's not like they're a different person. It's just that the diagnosis changed because the criteria changed. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's not like there's more autistic people. They're just being identified.
You're saying that there isn't any increase in autism, if any?
There's not a whole lot more autistic people, no. Like, I mean, there's, the occasional more autistic people, getting it on with other autistic people and therefore making autistic babies, but it's not like a huge rise like people want to scare you with. I don't think I'm that scary. It's not even Halloween.
That's a couple days from now.
I probably heard it on Fox.
I mean, there's a lot of people who want you to be afraid of autism, and then that kind of makes me feel real bad about myself for a couple minutes, and then I realize maybe we should feel bad about a rise in people who want you to be afraid of autism, because geez, who does that? Who's afraid of people existing?
Not bad. And maybe the other reason.
Yeah. I think there was a question in the back. Yes.
Your triplet experience, and of the three, each person was very unique. Has that carried you in your life work or getting daily affirmations or anything like that?
What do you mean? Can you ask it in a different way?
You had a great opportunity to be with people that were different, and they were your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of similarity, but there's a lot of difference there, a lot of experience there. Has that been useful to you?
Oh, yeah.
About
Well, I mean, I think I'm funny. I don't think I'd have thought I was as funny as I did if I wasn't always competing with my brothers. That's a joke. No, I feel like I actually had to learn a lot of conflict resolution skills that, honestly, both girls and autistic people don't necessarily end up learning. I had to learn a lot of assertiveness skills that a lot of people don't learn, and some of that's because I was sandwiched between two brothers. Like we are the same age. I was going to learn it or I was going to not have the thing. So I feel like that was a thing. And I don't think that's related to autism so much as triplet stuff, but there's some interpersonal things that I learned because of that.
Did that make you more able to get what you need as a human?
I learned to be loud when necessary.
So we've talked about some different words that are used to describe people who are autistic or neurodivergent. I'm curious, you used the word neurotypical earlier, I think. There's lots of different words to describe people who are not autistic. Could you speak a little bit about that, Kassiane?
Well, neurotypical is the most neutral one. Neurotypical is your brain does all the things it's supposed to do, or not supposed to. I don't like that word. We're going to erase that word. All the things it's expected to do. Allistic means not autistic. That is the opposite of autistic. Allistic is the opposite of autistic. Not everyone uses that, and that's fine.
Why don't they? I
have no idea. There's a couple people who decided it was pejorative, and I don't understand why, but they can think that if they want, Like, I'm not going to argue with them, that's fine. I will save my arguments. And then neurodivergent is that big tent that's the opposite of neurotypical. And then, you'll have your specific non-autistic neurodivergences. We have our lovely little constellation inside our big tent, and I could not list all of those. It would take 1,000,000 years. We would get very bored. Am I missing any of our vocab words?
I'll just, again, I feel like I'm being a person saying all the dumb things on purpose.
That's okay.
But 50, 60, maybe 100 years ago, people used to use the word normal and then not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue, I think you would too, Kassiane, that everything that we're talking about is normal within the spectrum of being human.
It sure is.
So, yeah.
Yeah, normie is a slur and I don't like it. Like, there are people who will use normie and I don't like it. It's like, no, we're not doing that here. I've also heard neurocasual speaking of things that I'm not doing. It's like, no, that one's actually pejorative. We're not doing that. So now you know a couple of the pejoratives that I won't use, except for to tell you they're pejoratives. Yeah. I've got rules.
Can I ask, in future, where do you see the success of your advocacy and what would that success look like? And I also want to ask about, I've advocated in IEPs because that's my flow and that's when my dopamine and serotonin is legit and on point. And so I want to understand how in university, when you were in university, what happens in public school or private schools with IEPs and 504s, and then you go into the university camp and how that accommodation and services looks like. Because I know it's a battle in the public and private arena of schools for young people. And so I just want to understand where the future of your advocacy looks successful and when you feel that you hit markers, and how that advocacy looks when you're in an educational institution, in that higher ed. I guess, does that make sense?
It does. Those are two different questions.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Foundations for Divergent Minds seeks, we ask ourselves more like, okay, right now the autistic community is putting back together the autistic adults that the world broke when we were kids. Okay, but what if we didn't break us in the first place? That's our whole thing. And actually right now we're funding research, we're trying to get funding for research to mitigate domestic violence against autistic people. Mostly right now we're trying to get money to help medical providers recognize domestic violence against autistic people. That's where we're at. When we can get funding for that, instead of getting reviewers say, oh, well, I can't imagine this is a problem. This can't actually be a problem. I sure hope this isn't a problem, right? That's my end of the year success, is not getting those reviews back. We're starting low, because I was real mad when we got those back. Getting people to see that actually we are human people with human problems is like my end of the year thing, and not breaking autistic children is the end of lifetime. Does that make sense? As far as the university thing, in theory, it's a lot easier in university. You go in, you ask for your accommodations, you get the paper, you go talk to your professor, your professor's cool, and says, sure, okay, we can do that, and you go home. In practice, you end up having to go to arbitration with the school about a light switch.
So, Michael, did you want to speak at all about where you hope the world goes?
I want to hear that.
I hope sometime soon that I don't have to be socially outcasted from everybody else, even when I'm just wanting to even talk to a singular person. Mm-hmm. No matter what I do, I'll always be outcasted in what has happened in today's world. If that ever did change, I would hope that I didn't have to go through that, or anybody else would ever have to go through that again.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, we're almost at time.
That's wild.
Any last questions? Yes.
Do you have a group of that you are familiar with, or that you're with, like your robotic group, or some group where you feel like that, like this is the world I want? Hope that I can.
Our robotics group is really the only closest thing I have to that is me and the 5 members of that team. Most of them are also outcasts in school themselves. And that's what makes our robotics team what it is.
Can I do a quick follow-up quickly? Michael, if something could have changed in your public school situation that you would have told the adults in the room in power, what do they need to change? And I'm a big believer in, because I heard it when I fought for my child, change takes time, change takes time. No, it happens the moment that you choose to make that change. So what is that look like?
I would hope that most of the bullying that would always happen in school to mainly people who are outcasts to everyone else, it would stop. It's overkill now.
And as much as we'd like to believe that it stops, I mean, that's even a training, you know, now I'm substituting in the district here. And every year, even though you've done the same videos every single year, you have to do them every single year. And one is about bullying, you know. And we're supposed to all be aware of that bullying, take it all serious.
Could I ask one more follow-up? Do you believe that it can change top down, bottom up, or both? What is your belief system? And I ask that of both of you when it comes to a change in those institutions.
It would have to start pretty much top down because the teachers are the ones who literally don't ever notice it, as I've seen before.
I think it has to come from both. Like, the teachers have to enforce it, but if an entire classroom decides that they're done being asshats, I'm sorry, it is almost, it's late and we're at.
Believe me, I agree with you entirely.
But the teacher has to be on top of it too, you know? If the teacher wants a bully classroom, they're gonna have one. So yeah. I'm so sorry.
Well, just to wrap up, I did wonder if you, Kassiane, could speak just a few minutes about.
Oh gosh.
Well, it doesn't have to be long, but I'm just curious if you could tell us about your experience of being an advocate for autistic people and any hope that that's given you, any future or positive things that you've seen.
Yeah, give me a moment.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I deserved it. I just accidentally swore. No, okay. So actually, I work with kids, and one of my favorite ones is I accidentally made a connection with a kid at my dojo who was being evaluated for autism when we met. And like, I spotted her right away. I'm like, you're one of mine. I just knew. It's like, this kid's one of mine. And it was a few years ago now. And we connected on Zoom. We connected on the mat and we connected on Zoom over the pandemic. And we just, we started talking and started giving her scripts for self-advocacy because she wants to do things herself. She's in middle school now, or almost middle school. When is middle school? I don't know. No, she's in upper elementary. And she's always been really independent, but she also needed a lot of help with with expressing herself effectively, instead of going from noticing she's upset straight to meltdown, because that is a really thin slice in first grade, even for neurotypical kids. And just watching her learn to say, hey, this isn't okay. I need this to stop, and I need this to stop now. If it doesn't stop, I am leaving the room, and be able to figure it out and act on it has been just one of the most glorious things, right? Because the other kids in her class can't do that. And she's like, she's got her stuff going on, but she's like, I can do this. And it's like, yes, we work real hard on that and some other things, but just watching this kid do the things we're working on. And I love this kid. And she did quit Aikido because she wasn't loving it. And you know what? That's okay. She was so disappointed. She was so sad to tell me because she was afraid I'd be disappointed. I was like, no, you don't love it with your whole autism, right? She's like, I don't love it with any of my autism. Okay, that's fine. I will see you on our meetings. And so, yeah, and she felt empowered to quit too, because she didn't feel like she had to do it for anybody. And yeah, that she knew she could do things for her, in part because of our whole let's think about what you actually want lessons was really, yeah, I like my one-on-ones.
Michael, did you want to share with us anything that's given you hope or a positive experience that you've had?
A positive experience I've had is I sometimes had to go down to the office, but if I'm also in the office or it's a class I'm not supposed to be doing in the school because they either make too much noise or they play extremely loud music for some reason down the hall. Yeah, band class on an afternoon, it's fun. I am asked to head down to the special education wing of the school. And one of the things that I've always done is help the students as much as I can with things that they ask for my help, because they know I'm from the normal school and I'm able to think most of the time what I need to do. So they ask for my help and I say, oh, you need help with this item? So think about this ideal here. And there are students that I've helped with papers and other things that they didn't know what to do with. And if they were just trying to look up something and they didn't know how to do it.
Well, thank you both for your help today and helping illuminate the world that you live in, the world that we all live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sherry, did you have?
We've got some refreshments and some cookies. And coached by my husband. Next week, we'll have Bob Salinger, who is the Director of Conservation at the Public Audubon Society here to talk about birds.
Great.
I have never liked it.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.